Joining us now is Artur Davis. He is a former Democratic congressman from Alabama and gave one of President Obama's nominating speeches back in 2008. Now he's a Republican and fighting the good fight. How are you, Mr. Davis?
John, I'm well, and also a proud resident of the Commonwealth. Don't want to leave that out. But
not only did he switch from Democrat to Republican, but he's a citizen of the Commonwealth. Now, where do we nominate this guy for beatification? You know,
right.
Where do we go?
Nice to talk to you, and hello to your audience again.
And it's always great to have you on, Congressman. And you're in Northern Virginia, so I just want to throw this out there. Governor McDonnell is going to sign a comprehensive landmark transportation reform bill, so help is on the way.
Well, we don't know if help is on the way or not. You know, there are so many reservations that a lot of Virginia Republicans have about this transportation bill. It's partly funded, unfortunately, with federal money that may or may not ever show up. Federal money that's not even been approved by Congress yet. If the money doesn't show up, guess how the revenue will be replaced? The revenue will be replaced by raising taxes here in Virginia. There are a lot of criticisms of whether this bill is going to really do what needs to happen to improve transportation in Northern Virginia, or whether it's going to be more of the same political log rolling. Now, there's no question it is very difficult to pass a comprehensive transportation bill, very difficult to fund it. There are all kinds of substantive, legitimate issues around doing that, and there was never going to be a bill that made everyone happy. But part of the reason why I think there's been so much Republican opposition to this bill is we know we're going to get some of these tax increases that are going to get passed on to the consumers in the ways of fees and distributor taxes. We don't know what we're going to get on the back end and middle end in terms of improvement in transportation.
Well, we're going to see how it plays out. As you probably know, I was the only conservative journalist in the galaxy that was behind this transportation package. So time will tell. At the end of the day, I think I'm right. Why don't we go to an interesting endorsement that you just made? A young fellow, Ron Meyer, 24 years old, running for Congress, and he's going to be attempting to take on Democratic stalwart Jerry Connolly. And you came out and backed Mr. Meyer. Why?
Well, I think Ron Meyer is a very good guy, and just as important, I think he's the kind of Republican that we need to start growing and recruiting in the state of Virginia. There's no question we talk about a whole lot of groups that Republicans struggled with in the last election. Well, let's not leave people under 29 out of that equation. Given what happened to the job prospects of people under 29, there were all kinds of savvy people, as you remember very well, who predicted, all those young people who came out for Obama in 2008, they'll never show back up at the polls again. And for a while, the data seemed to indicate that. Guess what? Looks like more people 18 to 29 voted in 2012 than in 2008, and that was one of the worst groups for Republicans. Mind you, George Bush was winning this group against John Kerry and Al Gore as recently as 2000, 2004. This myth that, people under 29 are always going to be more liberal because of whatever reason people throw out there, just not the case. That they were voting Republican for a number of cycles. And we need to do something as a party to win our way back with these people. Northern Virginia is very tough sledding for Republicans right now, which is amazing when you think about the history of this region. 2004, George Bush won 55% of the vote in Fairfax County, 57% in 2000. Barack Obama won 62% of the vote in Fairfax County last time. The 11th district, Barack Obama won by 25 points. So we've got to start the hard work as a party because we can't lose Northern Virginia by anywhere near that kind of margin and hope to make it up in the rest of the state. And frankly, we just finished a campaign cycle where the strategy was, let's lose Northern Virginia big, or let's accept that we're going to lose it big and somehow think that we can offset it by winning in other parts of the state. But we also narrowly lost Enrico County around Richmond.
Right.
So as a practical matter, and of course, obviously, the Northern Virginia share of the state is a very, very large one that continues to grow. So we've got to do the hard work of winning our way back. It will start by reaching the young professionals who are there. It will also start, obviously, by doing a lot more work with a substantial ethnic vote that people like Tom Davis used to win that now Republicans are going to crush with.
You know, there's no question, and Congressman Tom Davis did win minorities in his district, hands down. You know, it's interesting what you bring up is kind of the untold story. Everybody understands about the fact that President Obama dominated with Hispanics and others, Asians also. What goes under the radar screen is just, you hit the nail on the head. Obama was able to win young people big, but he got them back out. You know, the whole Romney mathematics, as you said, was based on young people not turning out for Obama the way they did in 2008. And actually, as you pointed out, the vote count went up. So as you look at what the GOP came out with the other day, the RNC with their so-called autopsy, do you think they're on the right track?
Well, there's a lot in the report. Most of it is on the right track. Here are the two big takeaways from my standpoint, particularly with respect to the group we're talking about. The mainstream media would have you believe that the issue we have with young people is that the Republican Party is seen as being old and out of touch on issues like gay marriage and abortion. As a practical matter, our challenge with young people, candidly, is not gay marriage and abortion. Our challenge with young people is that they are facing the economic challenge of entering a workforce that isn't ready to absorb them, that's not creating enough jobs for them. And the unemployment rate among people with a BA degree is higher than it's been in 30 years. The number of people under 30 who are in the workforce is at one of its lowest levels in the last 30 years. We're not, and of course, the student loan debt is extremely high. We have 21 million families in college, which, by the way, is a decrease from what it was several years ago. But 21 million families of kids in college. 80% of them can't go without taking on massive amounts of debt. And, of course, we know that 3/4 of people who enter college as freshmen have not graduated by the time they're seniors, in part because of financial reasons. And in other parts, many of them are often not fully prepared by their K-12 education. We didn't talk about these kinds of problems as Republicans. If you want to know how to reach people under 29, let's, as conservatives and Republicans, start talking about what can be done to make college more affordable, and let's frankly abandon this fiction that, oh, that's just Democrats who are trying to promise something to people. I've heard too many Republicans say, oh, you know, we're trying to reduce the national debt, and Barack Obama is trying to send more kids to college and increase their debt. That sounds ridiculous to people who are 18 to 29, who are going to go in debt to go to college because they think it's a good, responsible investment. We've got to do something, though, to reduce that burden of debt, and we've got to be willing to talk as conservatives about making college more affordable. Let's understand, if you make a decision to go to college, you are doing a very conservative thing. You're deciding to take on more responsibility, to take on more burden in the interest of preparing yourself to take care of yourself and your family. Isn't that part of what conservatives teach?
Without a doubt. I mean, that's why I think where the big disconnect is with young people today. A lot of the messaging that's coming out of the GOP right now doesn't make sense to them.
And we're talking to former Congressman Artur Davis, who was a Democrat from Alabama, now a resident of the Commonwealth and a Republican. And I would ask you, Congressman, since you have been inside the Democratic election machine, how does Ken Cuccinelli counter what we expect from Terry McAuliffe in the upcoming gubernatorial race?
Well, it's a great question. What Ken Cuccinelli, in my humble opinion, has to do is to run a campaign that talks about education reform, that talks about more accountability in government, that talks about more efficiency in government, and that talks about sustaining Virginia's reputation as being a job creator. And that can't happen if we end our status of being a right-to-work state, which Terry McAuliffe and the unions want to do. Cuccinelli's got to make this campaign about bread and butter economic issues. Democrats want to run a race on social issues. They want to run a race on rape, incest exceptions, on gay marriage, gay adoption. They want to run that kind of race because they think that that helps bring out their base. And we all know the Democratic challenge historically in Virginia is that they can't get their folks to come back out in the off years. Well, they'll get their folks to come back out if this is an election about social issues. What Republicans have to do is to make this an election about bread and butter issues. Right now, Republicans have got to get comfortable talking about school choice, about education accountability in the state of Virginia. Virginia is, frankly, leading the country in so many ways that measure economic prosperity. One of the ways we've lagged behind is in school choice and in vouchers. We're not a choice state. There are 3 charter schools in the state of Virginia, and we don't allow vouchers. We're allowing other states to begin to get the best of us in these kinds of core reform issues. And by the way, if Republicans want to figure out how to begin to message back to the Latino community and the Asian community and the black professional community in Northern Virginia that used to often give strong numbers for Republicans, Republicans have to get comfortable talking about the issues that affect their lives. If you're an African American, Latino, or Hispanic parent in Loudoun County, Prince William County, or Fairfax County, you're concerned first and foremost about making sure that those schools stay as good as they need to be, and you worry about reports that some of those schools are deteriorating. And Republicans can't be afraid to talk about those issues.
Congressman, I would ask, as we know, the McAuliffe campaign will probably try to paint Mr. Cuccinelli as a proponent of social engineering, that he's strident,
Sure.
that he's ideological. Should the Cuccinelli campaign even focus on the big money aspect of the McAuliffe campaign and the fact that he is perceived, particularly downstate, as a carpetbagger?
Well, I'll put it this way. When you're running a campaign, you know the other side's going to come at you.
Oh, sure.
You can sit there and take it, or you can come at them. Now, you know, the issue of Terry McAuliffe is not the fact that Terry McAuliffe's not from here. I'm not either. The problem is Virginia's never rubbed off on Terry McAuliffe. You know, Terry's been in Virginia, I think, off and on for 26 years. The problem is you can't tell it. It looks like he's been here for 26 days. Terry McAuliffe couldn't possibly have been in Virginia that long if he doesn't realize that Virginia has got to stay a right-to-work state. Terry McAuliffe wants to change the subject when he gets in front of a business audience and someone asks him about it. When he gets in front of his union audiences, Terry McAuliffe talks about Virginia ending its status as a right-to-work state. Can you imagine if Virginia stopped being a right-to-work state, what that would do to our capacity to be a leading job creator? We only have a 5.6% unemployment rate in the state of Virginia. And that's gone up a little bit. But that's one of the lowest levels, obviously, in the country. And the reason for that is because we've built a pro-business climate. Does anyone seriously think that if you elect as governor the guy who taught Bill Clinton to rent out the Lincoln bedroom to donors, that he's not going to figure out a way to pay back the unions and to pay back the trial lawyers who are funding his campaign?
Might as well change the bed sheets in the executive mansion now if that happens, you know.
So the issue is Virginia hasn't rubbed off on Terry McAuliffe. That's the problem.
What's the political future in Virginia for Artur Davis?
Well, I'm spending a lot of time now talking to Virginia Republicans. I'm speaking in Reston County at the Reagan-Lincoln Dinner tonight, speaking in Alexandria, Colonial Republican Women tomorrow night, speaking at UVA in a few weeks at College Republicans. There's no question I'm spending time now getting to know Virginia Republicans, getting to know Republicans all around the Commonwealth, getting to know Republicans in the Northern Virginia area, and it's important for me to do that as someone who's been in the community now for 3 years, but who's still relatively new in the community. It's important to continue to get to know Virginia Republicans, and we'll see what happens on the back end of that.
Former Congressman Artur Davis was a Democrat from Alabama, now a resident of the Commonwealth and a Republican. I don't know how we have the honor to have both of those things happen, but we're glad you're here. We'll introduce you around to some great Republicans here in the Commonwealth, believe me.
Thank you, John. Steve, good morning.